Okay, I always have to wait a couple seconds to make sure it's recording because it does this glitch thing. It seems like it's not doing it. Okay, you're live. I had watched I don't know, for 3 years now or something, some of the videos about where they, kind of just make fun of women who post on TikTok about how there's no good men and then they list all their own personal grievances and with no self-awareness whatsoever. So I could make a video like that, but I think that would be redundant. There's plenty of that content already out there. The videos I do recommend if you actually want actual relationship advice is Alexander Grace. I don't know why he doesn't have more subscribers than he does. He's gotten a little bit more cynical and soured in the last year or so. Excuse me. Um, and for good reason, I think. And so I had been watching not that much of that content lately because I've seen so much of it. And I live in Southern California where the women fall basically the single ones, I should say, or the recently divorced ones, they fit all these stereotypes right down the line. And dig their own holes, I guess. But I was watching another guy. He was really fired up about being opposed to a specific boot brand company. And I realized, yes, this is a video I should make. Hopefully, people watch this because it's not just that content, but it is based on actual employee behavior. Now, I'm sure Tinder will give you, if you contact them, some disclaimer about, what they do in their private life is their private thing. But I think it's similar to the problem with the AI producing like black men wearing German military uniforms during the Second World War to be inclusive. There's like an inherent bias there that we can't get around. I think I don't know about all the companies. I've talked to a friend about how he had a problem with eHarmony, 2 decades ago or something, and I don't know if he got his money back or not. If you can get your money back, if you're in some grace period, you might want to do that. I really don't. I cannot. I'm not a lawyer, so I cannot tell you what requires for a class action lawsuit, and I cannot tell you what exactly can constitute consumer fraud in this case. I went to the website. I've talked about this in one of my other videos that wasn't related to this at all. The decor video, just to see if anybody would mention it, and nobody watched it. So here we are. So try and remember what I was saying there before I get into some text. The Like I said, the inherent bias, though, of the same kind of women that you're having trouble with on these TikTok videos or on these dating sites are the same kind of women who work for this company, or at least one. I can get into very specifics, actual literal posts in a minute, without wanting to air too much of their personal philosophy and such. But yeah, they can't figure out why they're single, and they say all the same stuff, which is basically they kind of hate men and say so pretty much out loud, and they think that men won't catch on. Too late. Here I am. I caught on. I mean, like I said, there's already 3 years or more of these other videos where they caught on sooner, and again, I think some of them are more entertaining than others. But when I went to the website to log in to any kind of free things that were offered, I didn't see anything that was free that was offered. There was 3 tiers of payment options. So once again, if they're subdividing you by how much you're willing to pay, that's already problematic because it just assumes that, anybody from this income bracket doesn't deserve to date anyone above this income bracket ever. Like, I don't agree with that entirely or at all, or to begin with. So I did not sign up, and I'm not necessarily the typical I'm not going to make up, some of these sites will make up a dummy account, to kind of see, oh, how does it, is it different if you sign up as a woman or if you sign up as a bachelor, what kind of experiences do you have? And so there's been, videos about that where women have pretended to be men on these dating sites and like, oh, I got 50 matches as a female and I got 2 as a male, and the 2 that I got was neither of them, one was a catfish and one was, lying about their appearance, their income, or whatever else, and not a nice person or whatever. Which I guess is technically catfishing too, but not catfished by, a 12-year-old, having fun with their parents' computer or whatever. But let's see, in here there was both like internet posts and TikTok videos. Some of it trying to pretend that, they're not totally anti-man, but the more you read, the more you realize already at a disadvantage in their philosophy. If you're a white man, you're or Latino or other patriarchal culture, you're at a little bit more of a disadvantage. And if you voted a certain way, you're very definitely at a disadvantage. And then they insist they're not going to date any men who fall into these categories, then insist that they did date men that fell into these categories and they were so disappointed. And so, well, if you already knew you were going to be disappointed, why did you date them? You're just looking for a free dinner. Insist that they're not just looking for a free dinner. Don't know. But clearly do not, believe that men deserve respect on a lot of levels. Maybe on a human level, they all deserve respect, but then they instantly start doing, like Alexander Grace talks about, the subtle things that they lie about what feminism is versus what it really is. Becomes very evident. A lot of this creeping, I don't know his exact language, but basically abuse, verbal abuse, psychological abuse, things that they're going to do in a relationship probably that are passive aggressive, manipulation, all the other kind of things. Now, again, I'm not saying that Tinder promotes this, but I'm saying that these people working for Tinder, again, are going to create an inherent bias that's going to make it very hard for you to find someone that you will be truly compatible with. And I'm not just saying that to men. I'm saying that also to women who want a traditional relationship and an actual marriage culture or casual. I mean, if you're just using it for casual, then I guess you're just going to ignore me and keep using it. But if you're looking for something fundamentally more solid and long-term and legitimate and all that, you might be wasting your time and money, and not just in California. I'm trying not to go into politics, although there's a lot of overlap with this kind of stuff with about politics and other subjects that I think are semi-related. But this isn't a politics channel. But again, they've turned dating political, and they've said out loud that that was their intent. So then they talk about matriarchy without realizing, and then so here's a responder who comments, feminism and matriarchy are completely different things. And yes, that's true. And this original poster had tried to conflate feminists with women as if all women are feminists, when clearly they are not, and many of them, for very good reason, don't consider themselves feminist, especially not in the new, again, see Alexander Grace definitions for a little more in-depth clarity on that than I'm not a psychologist and I'm not a lawyer, but I'm not a total idiot either. So saying that, male leadership is just leading to another conflation, talking about the Catholic Church and Boy Scouts and things. People who exploit a system is not an indictment of that system itself. So again, kind of a slippery slope argument there to a degree, and almost all the arguments presented, if I read through the comments, it would be gaslighting, projection, straw man, every logical fallacy almost under the sun. I don't remember the names of all of them from way back when. I took that course as an undergrad, but this one was talking about politics. And then insists that this other one was trying to argue that we technically have a matriarchy because a lot of the applicable laws governing child custody and these kind of things all favor women now. This has been pretty well documented. I have a friend, blah, 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 you know, who went through all that. And they definitely treated him like a deadbeat dad when he was trying to do the right thing and all that. And then brings up a faulty example of the typical victimhood that has been pointed out on those other channels. So yeah, if we have such an oppressive system that keeps women down, how are they allowed in politics at all? How are you allowed to have this job at all where you are clearly overpaid, probably to crunch numbers, just because you were smart enough not to major in liberal arts like so many of your Starbucks cohorts that are also running around with their heads cut off like a chicken wondering why they can't find any good men. This person is definitely over 30, definitely claims they are looking for a monogamous relationship, but insists they should be allowed to date multiple partners at a time. What they're doing with these multiple partners is unclear. How much of it is actually true information? Again, I would have trouble going through that without, actual photos and names and dates. But to a degree, we can surmise that these are not the kind of women that men who want a woman who has few previous partners to actually marry is going to find very desirable, and all that. And so this guy points out that those political candidates were actually also defeated by female voters, not only white men, etc., etc. This one insists that they are only pick-me women. I guess that's some new phrase, meaning women who are so desperate to get married, they'll take any guy who comes along. I don't think I've ever met a woman who married a guy that impulsively very often in the last 20, 30 years or something. But I imagine, okay, they might be out there. But I would say no, most of the women who voted a certain way in the last election have husbands and children and families, unlike you. So there's that. I have to leave out some of this because I think it's not completely relevant and I don't know what gets, I'm not worried about this getting monetized, but I don't know what gets flagged on YouTube because I've seen people talking about this and this and this that I thought would be verboten, and then other videos, they creep around, they talk around certain words and creep around words and blah, blah, blah. Worried about getting knocked off. I probably have to do this in installments. I'll probably do another one of these next week anyway, and maybe we'll go into some more of these things. But yes, we know that the statistics show that Democrats are having less children and less marriages, and this one insists that Democrats still do have marriages and children. Well, nobody says they don't, but she's saying they have marriages later or children later in life. Whether or not they have marriages or not is irrelevant, I guess. Yes, but you are having like one child, maybe over 40, not 3 when you're in your 20s. So do the math. You're supposedly a mathematician. Insist they are not a genius, which means they were probably and they didn't use the term back then, but a kind of a DEI college admittance, which means there's probably some white or Asian guy who might have gotten that spot instead if they were smarter, but didn't, which means that there might be somebody who would be better at your job who doesn't have your job. Okay, I'm not going to go into that now. Like I said, I'm trying to leave out politics and economics a bit and keep this focused. It'll be a little bit long, but we'll see if anybody makes it in here. Oh, then there was one who wanted they were visiting from the UK and wanted some advice on entertainment options. This one, and said, especially if they are cute. I don't know if that meant men or women. I assume it meant men. And this one recommends that they go see LGBTQ content. So I don't know how many cute straight men you're going to meet at that. Again, implicit bias. How good can this person be doing their job that I will trust this company with my data or my money? Not much. I don't know if they're just trying to score substances or what, you know. I was surprised that they were pleased with this response and said thanks. I guess ask a straightforward question from a weirdo and you'll get a weirdo answer. Same problem as the Tinder thing and same problem as the AI thing. I don't know if that's an actual woman or a transvestite or anything. I didn't look that deep into it. Again, I'd need photos and names and dates. I'm just giving you an example. Oh, this was from that Amish program. Sorry. I've been watching that Amish program on, is it Bravo or TLC? I think it's TLC. They had a few. And so it's all very much about, obviously, traditional relationships, but they take it to the nth degree. I'm not affiliated with them or other similar orthodoxy kind of churches. So they are talking about, well, trad wives versus spinsters. You know, I don't know if I think they used the term old maid or something in the program. I forget. But there's been a lot of this, like I said, in other videos exposing, you know, the TikTok explosion of men don't want me trend of women over 35 or actually over 30 to a degree. Many of them using filters to make their face look 15 years younger or so sometimes. But many of them are still, they seem still attractive, until apparently their personality is man repellent and the smart men run away and marry someone else. You know? Let's see, this was an old. To speak about my friend, the eHarmony thing, that was he had a tough time with that because he had moved to another country and they were still giving him matches in the United States was part of the problem. So I'm not saying that is typical for everyone. But again, that was a long time ago that he had tried that service. And I never tried that service. I tried Yahoo Personals a long time ago, and it was like $70 a month or something. And I had as many matches as he did, except they were at least in California. One was definitely a catfish. One was a woman who only gave me monosyllabic responses. But in those days, I didn't have like a printer where you could post a photo, or sorry, a scanner on my printer. So I didn't have any way to upload a photo, so she refused to meet me without a photo, so that just never happened. Let's see. So then there was another post. Actually, I think this was from the 5. I think this was from Greg Gutfeld or Jesse Waters. Men still consistently the same amount of conservative for a few decades already, as plotted on a graph. We're like 3 generations in of men being basically mostly interested in sports, not politics. A few men, getting more political again as the demand has increased, obviously. And the women, however, have gotten a lot more radicalized, and it hasn't improved their situation any, as far as anybody can quantify. But they're trying to insist that it's only small town men who are the Republicans, and they're all lonely now. No matter how much they try to spin the data, but I think the small town men might be slightly better off in that they have more of a steady dating pool than the more urban or suburban almost. How many of them are playing video games and not really going out and meeting? How many of them are skipping mixers and that kind of thing? Obviously, those numbers are starting to kind of go down, and I'm part of it. I'm saying, yeah, boycott a lot of this stuff, especially if they're charging you up the wazoo and providing you with not a lot of substance to really engage with. But also men, I don't know if this is just my opinion or if I'm paraphrasing, but I think I agree with this, even if they said it first. But I think this is mine. It gets muddy in some of my comments and quotes when I'm trying to read it. But I think men are more self-entertaining with real hobbies and sports, not just shopping as a hobby. And that, I mean, this is kind of a shopping channel, but it's not the buy stuff channel. If you've watched my reviews, you know that I don't get freebies from these companies, and I go based on other people's recommendations and try to use the products to see how they perform, mostly with casual use, because I don't have a heavy 14-hour-a-day industrial job or anything like that where I can, abuse the products. But I also have had a lot of people over the years tell me work is where you'll meet women. And of course, I've had the kind of jobs where there aren't any women, no matter what these feminists or feminists say, that they can do the same job as men do. Okay, well, I haven't seen any of you on any of these job sites. I saw one gal one time who was a welder's assistant. It was probably his daughter for all I know. And, she would hand him the rods from the toolbox that he could have grabbed himself. So saving him that whopping 20 seconds of time or whatever. I don't know how much she was getting paid to do that. And maybe she learned welding, and maybe she's a good welder. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm saying it's very, very rare. Very, very, very rare. And probably even more rare that a guy who works in that kind of job wants to marry a woman who also works in that kind of job too. So I don't know. That's on you, the give some realistic demand perhaps for online dating sites because there might be scarcity, but you really must, like I said, vet these sites for these toxic traits. And I've been uncovering plenty of toxic traits. So again, I don't want to give air to too much of this rhetoric. I think that, again, some of it might not be allowed even on YouTube. If I say what they say, what they're allowed to say, I might get flagged. I don't know. This person has been all over social media and giving out private details of their life as public information for years already, at least a decade. So there's no real confidential secrets much here, but I, again, don't want to get too into the nitty gritty of things that I've read or heard them type or say that might be X-rated or R-rated. I'm not sure. Uses an alias, but not a celebrity, but has some entertainment industry contacts and that kind of thing. Kind of a failed actor writer, I guess, if you want to call it that. I guess technically I'm a failed writer too, even though I've probably written way more than this one. Social media, well, just to backtrack, MySpace made this trendy, but also hard to find actual friends in those days when I was younger and kind of looking for people that I used to know that I wanted to reconnect with, not necessarily always romantically. But this one constantly is always trying to get their name out there in ways that I don't bother with. And so feuds with a lot of accounts that insist are bots. I don't know how many of them are actually bots, but gets triggered by a lot of this content and stays up all night posting manic episodes constantly. Every other week almost. Sometimes I had joked with someone, after they had rejected what I thought were decent proposals. I joked, oh, but tomorrow they'll be on TikTok complaining that there's no good men. It actually took over 2 weeks before they made the TikTok video complaining about no good men. But yep, there it was. And then I said, like I said, even more of this increasingly toxic content over the last couple months until I'm finally just at a breaking point going, oh my God, this company is never getting a dime from me at this rate, even if they are the biggest one or the most popular one now. Said that already. I had gone to a similar college and thought back then that there was already kind of a lot of dumb rich kids. So again, how much of that was, what we would call DEI now, I don't know. But a lot of the professors were just as biased, and in gender and politics and everything else. It was already going on. I was the one guy in the class arguing with some of these, and I've written screenplays about it that will probably never ever get produced. Constantly brags about education, resume, and salary. This is, again, how I know where they work and what they do. And personal spending habits to a degree, but does not want to date a man who makes less than her, even though all the women have taken all these jobs. So there aren't any men that make more than you anymore in a lot of these occupations. So again, another catch-22 for these women. Won't date certain racial demographics or other consideration factors, like probably won't date a guy under 6 feet or whatever typical complaint. Don't know exactly what the cutoff is there, but definitely posted a photo of the type that it's matching with, even if that's not exactly what it's attracted to, in its profile or its day-to-day habits, which is my complexion with facial hair. Okay. Typically. Yes, like I said, I don't know if they're giving bogus data to keep men from finding romance partners and steal their money on false hope. But somebody can look into that who's, again, more legally minded or whatever than I am. If you see this, run with it. Or if you're from Fox News and you wonder if this is like a Leering Center situation, find out. I'd like to know. Or else I wouldn't be talking this long, because I'm still, 28 minutes. Okay, that's not too bad. We'll do a little bit more, because I wrote a bunch of stuff that I haven't read yet. But so yeah, if you want to use the language from the other dating videos, Chad, at least one failed relationship prior to the holidays again in the past year, or the past season of 2025. Blocks all the sane people and then complains about living in an echo chamber. Again, politics. I don't know where guys always threw engagement rings at her. I don't know if this is the true with her, but she does imply that a lot of guys think they're in love at first sight with her, and how many of them she actually sees, I don't know. Again, don't have names and dates. But at one point said 8 months is a long relationship. Sorry, instant red flag. 8 months is not a long relationship if you're actually looking for a monogamous, long-term marriage. 8 months would be like the beginning of the courting period of a long-term relationship. Now, I'm not saying every relationship is automatically going to hit it out of the park in the first couple dates, and I'm not saying you should always date someone that you don't like. Right. But again, inherent bias, if you think 8 months is a long-term relationship, you are really only participating in hook up with every single man you let buy you free dinner. Okay. Let's see, job stuff, ignore. No. I always see people posting about the good men in Hollywood, but no one ever brings up. Oh, this was the reply that she got. Sorry, this isn't her post. This is another guy or gal said this. I I don't know where the actual post went. It got deleted or something. But I always see people posting about the good men in Hollywood. Nobody brings up specific actor. Then the reply to that, just a stand-up good dude. I don't know. I'm not going to name the name because I don't know if that's a stand-up good dude or not. So this one says, here is a simple rule to tell you who is toxic in Hollywood. Is it someone with fame and power? If yeah, then ask, is it a man? If yes, then bad person. Okay. This is true 99% of the time. Okay, so 99% of Hollywood is all toxic men. Okay, sure. And what percentage of the women are toxic then? Because you're all, and nobody wants to see their modern audience movies, as Critical Drinker points out every other day. Okay. And I know because, again, I see the stuff that's getting produced in Hollywood by people that this one knows and other people, and it's nothing that I would pay to watch. And obviously the students being given the same degree I have or similar degrees don't know how to write a movie that I would want to watch very much. I did not go to a single film in the theaters last year, although I did see Downton Abbey on pay-per-view finally. Let's see. So Gen Y women, yes, increasingly bringing their baggage to the workplace. Again, another statistical thing, which directly relates here. And I think this was from Jesse Waters. Don't quote me. So in addition to affecting data, much less the company could get a more toxic environment in many ways. But I think they could also hire somebody half her age for a third of the price. And these are also the same people, according to Fox News, who are worried that AI will take their job. Probably will. And maybe they only need one, again, employee, possibly a man, who can do the job talking to the AI. I don't know. Instead of toxic bias female, who also, again, is more interested in the LGQB community and rather than families, the Planned Parenthood route. How is this a healthy dating perspective for men looking for a real partnership or future family? Yeah. Again, men should boycott this until they fire all of these woke types who are biased against men, older men, conservative men, etc., etc. This clearly exists in these blatant extremists. There's no way they can be neutral, and maybe the company's not neutral. Maybe the company believes in this ethos. I don't know. It's entirely possible, in which case, even less chance that they deserve your money. If, again, you believe in traditional values and you want a traditional marriage and you want a romance with a woman who doesn't date 30 men in a year or 50 men in a month or whatever. And again, gloating how much she makes versus these men who make less than her because, again, the deck has been stacked by other women just like her who set her up and pushed men down. So we already know that that was discriminatory hiring practices at best. Probably. It doesn't mean you're smarter than those men at all or a better employee or student than many of them. And again, admits that it was not a great student and felt like the fish out of water for a fair portion of their education, but somehow gets this job. But then insists, someone else posted this, we are statistically more educated and make more money, so we're wearing expensive perfume, ha ha ha, type of thing, type of post. And then she replied, ooh, yeah, I love mine. which, again, I don't think an average man would mind a woman who looks nice and smells nice per se, but wouldn't also typically mind if he could provide that to you instead of you just already having it and just wearing it for your girlfriends. Or maybe you save it for Chad and waste it on men who will never respect you or love you, and move on to the next one as quickly as they can. There's a lot of narcissism and vainglory in these, again, TikTok posts. And they use it to attract him into the bedroom, but then they get thrown away like yesterday's garbage and complain that all men are terrible. No, the men you date are terrible, probably a fair portion of them, but it made you gun shy and reject a bunch of, again, good ones that we discussed a few minutes ago. And of course, most of them are using substances anyway and possibly lying about it, pretending they're more squeaky clean than they are. Many of them say they're religious, but their idea of religion is nothing I ever heard of growing up. It's all feely, touchy-feely, do what you want to do, nothing to do with actual, certain passages, which again, the Amish program was pointing those out. And again, with the filters and all that, newsflash, you're closer to 40 than 20. So, if there was like an Office reference somewhere in there, you're more on your way to becoming Meredith than Pam in that scenario. Literally wore that perfume tonight, and I don't know who cared exactly because that night was cross-referenced to be a night that was, I think, a weeknight that they had little or no interaction with any potential romantic partners or setups from, again, dating site. And I don't know how you'd smell that over the smell of what you smoke. Just a little speculation there. Most men, well, these types of men won't care about your scent anyway, necessarily, too, because she's complaining about guys who don't shower as often as they're supposed to or something. But they want to gloat about how much money they make, but socialism for the rest of us is, the Hollywood stance. They'll outspend for glamour and then just wear a stupid sweatshirt and puffer jacket. I've seen photos and things. All dolled up. No one to likely date as usual, as I said. The spinster lifestyle, even in the big city. Let's see. Skipping some of this. The whole area, especially around like West Hollywood, is the lifestyle based against traditional marriage and that whole liberal thing. They all want to be single until they're well into their 40s now. Anyway, again, how are these people, determining your romantic outcome when they have no interest in what you want on a personal or professional level, as far as I can tell? Automatic bias, I said that already, especially, yeah, okay. Against lower wage earning brackets, it's and other generalities. Bougie wealth spoils they enjoy, whilst the rest can eat cake, was again that literal post about the perfume and such. Skip this for now. This one said, oh, okay, this was an argument with one of the typical trolls. I'm noticing that women have a very limited vocabulary and ability to articulate themselves, probably because they've been saying F you to him for a bunch of comments or whatever. Whether or not they have anything in, if that was part of the thread, I didn't copy it all. But then this one comes in and says, only dumb women are willing to waste time with you. Again, how would you know that? That's all gaslighting and projection, I guess. you know, many were saying in the comments that they dodged a bullet for sure, not dating dope and all that kind of thing. My question was just, okay, if you know so much about what, you know, smart women want, where's your husband? Where's your children? Where's your family? You don't have any. Insist that all these other women are pick-me's again, and then post photos constantly on other men's pages to try and get responses, and doesn't seem to get all that many responses. Because a little up above the age bracket, I guess, and a lot of men telling her that she's already aged out. Again, all that kind of language from the other videos that I don't necessarily endorse all of them. But common issues, again, about, you know, you're over 35. I'm not looking for someone that old who's been with that many partners. Yada, yada. And again, that's other commenters and videos. I'm not inserting my own personal preferences or anything into this video because, again, I'm trying to keep this on a legitimate legal AEs level or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. So there was said that New Year's good riddance to the last year. I don't know what was so horrible about it except for her own lame, terrible decisions. So she says she's ready to try again. I don't know what try again means except chasing more Chads, like a lonely spinster again. Pick me girl that she again says are terrible women or something, and then acts like them as far as I can tell. And who knows how many more trying to rack up the frequent flyer miles for the partner body count. Again, would need names and dates, pure speculation, don't know. But again, inherent bias. Why is this person a serial dater? There was literally a video on Taylor the Fiend with almost a woman saying almost the exact same stuff. I think it was November or somewhere around there. So I didn't copy the link. I'm not sure exactly, but they don't look exactly alike. But there's been a few where I wondered if it was the same person using a filter. Because almost the exact same verbiage, like I said. So then there was a long argument here about the entertainment thing. I might go into some of this in another installment, but it was more gaslighting and projection. Again, she had no quality relationships as recorded for the calendar year that I noticed, except for trying to get back together with a guy who gave her a manic episode in her depressive state or something. And posted all about it. Again, I don't know what language I can use here, so I don't know how much I can go into that, but said it was, you know, not sleeping, blaming it on politics, but not sleeping off and on for long stretches of time, weeks or even months, maybe on end. So again, I don't know how good of an employee they are, fueled by coffee, fueled by who knows what else, to stay awake all day. I have no idea. But very immature. A lot of the replies and things trying to be clever and failing to win any converts as far as I can tell. So again, why I would want to endorse this company when they hire this kind of person, not going to happen. And a lot of it, again, kind of propaganda of the stuff Alexander Grace complains about and the stuff that, again, Gutfeld complains about. So this one replies, it's funny, you actually think you're being insulting. You're just unfunny, liberal. And I'd say she also thinks she's original and smart, and it doesn't always come through. Sorry. And he says it's pathetic. Learn from Bill Maher. Of course, I would say Bill Maher mostly stinks now too, but at least he sees why people like her are having issues. then posts a clip of a GIF of a character from a movie doing an eye roll, which again I would say is an immature response more than a legitimate one. And then tries to play it off that at this point, toying with these losers is kind of fun. Oh, okay, so men who want to engage you and find out why you hold these, again, extreme, radical, not tolerable women beliefs is just a loser. So how many of us that want to sign up, not me personally, but the collective us, that want to sign up for your service, do you just consider losers based on money or politics or attitude? Apparently 99% of them. So again, I don't know what service you're really getting from this company at all. Then doesn't understand that low IQ means something different than stupid. Wrangler Star did this in a video from, I don't know, 8 months ago or something. So if you haven't seen that, you can go back and he explains what low IQ actually means. Like I said, I'm skipping a whole bunch of this conversation. Like I said, some try to assail her for her looks. Again, I'm sure she uses a filter. They all do. I don't know that that's necessarily a valid attack, but again, how they must all learn less than you and can't possibly have a real relationship. How are they the losers? You claim to be a Christian, but you're not married. You date multiple men monthly or yearly. So I don't know what credibility this has as a Christian, but again, I'm not really that interested in the religion aspect of this or the politics aspect of this. But like I said, I'm skipping big chunks just because we're running long. Let's see, another pick me photo from 2 years ago reposted. Something about gym bros all are wife abusers. Then why are you trying to attract this one? If you likely he'll see that and think you're loony if he's lucky or smart, I guess. Then let's see her. So then this person posted something, and then after midnight she came in with a comment. Let's see. Women and leftists are the same. You must ignore both. So yeah, I guess I'm working on it. Something about this guy's 48 years old and claims he follows Jesus. And then, or is this a woman? I don't know. But then the reply again is unfriendly gaslighting, I guess. So the response is, look, just because you're gay doesn't mean you can't be friends with women, you silly goose. And so I guess that's their idea of a joke, is to call the conservatives gay. They're back to that, even though it was proven as a losing strategy, again, in a previous election. So attacks his sexuality to gaslight, and then uses no commas, but gives other people grief for using incorrect punctuation elsewhere too. So again, do what I say, not what I do type of individual. So again, why they're single, not a big mystery as far as I can tell. He wants to be friends with these women for what? They can have the worst ever friend like her. I'm, again, speculating, but I'm not exactly eager to get on that bandwagon. Yeah, unless you want, a crazy bipolar, substance abusing fembot. I don't know what kind of friendship you're really going to have there. And that's if you want to be in the friend zone with someone like this, that most people apparently consider better for bedroom fun, as the site says. So then this one says there was a meme about the women devolving in appearance. And this commenter says, what has gone wrong, ladies? Why are you worse than our ancestor, despite more access to food, health, and wealth? Wrong ideology and brainwashed by parasitic media, perhaps. It's not your fault to be in the situation you are in, but it is your responsibility to wake up to the reality and get healthy again, which, I think is mostly solid advice. And the reply here is make him lonelier. Again, gaslighting that he's alone and doesn't have a relationship. How do you know that? You don't. Projection. But again, I would argue that yes, he is better lonely than being with someone like you. And hopefully you lose your job soon based on this. If this goes viral enough, or the right people see it in the right amount of time. Again, where's your husband? Where's even your date that particular night when you're up after midnight posting all this kind of man hatred content? Where are your children? Where is your family? Claims it has no masculine energy in every single argument, but is totally blatantly, willfully ignorant at best. There's some other stuff. Yeah, this goes on and on and on. There's a lot. I'm on page 14 of 42, so obviously I'm going to have to hang it up soon and just leave some of it for another time. Like I said, I think there's some other stuff about previous relationships that I think is relevant. But I don't want to necessarily go, like I said, act superior all the time in plenty of other situations, completely entitled, which is a common theme of all these women and a lot of younger people, I guess. 15 years of emotionally unavailable men and has learned nothing. Again, that's not government secret. That's them posting about the men that they've dated. And this, oh, I see. These are just other people's responses. Yeah, they've already checked out and let her do the dirty work, breaking up with them and feeling like, I guess that's a triumph, and then wants to get back together with them, but it doesn't seem like any of them want to get back together with her. So it's a preemptive breakup that she says she uses, which my friend calls discharging, I believe, which I guess autistic people do a lot or something, he was telling me. So again, yeah, I think the long relationship is 8 months. Again, just more inherent bias. Great relief. They can break away clean and they don't look back. Let's see. Also, let's see. Oh, this was the thing I wanted to talk about before I'm not going to talk about the Planned Parenthood stuff, but I am going to talk about the nightlife stuff, which, you know, this person is preoccupied with, again, telling people where to go for entertainment, being in, you know, a city so they can have lots of options for nightlife. Again, you're not closer to 20, you're closer to 40. If you were married and had children, you wouldn't care so much about nightlife because you'd be doing soccer mom stuff and PTA stuff and arts and crafts at the dinner table and watching The Little Mermaid 800 times again that you've already seen because they haven't seen it yet this week. That's the kind of stuff you would be focused on if you were interested at all in long-term romantic relationships with serious men who want families, with women who want to raise families. So that's my take on that for now. Like I said, I will leave 30 pages of this for another time. And get my evening. I don't know who's going to watch an hour of this, but hopefully it's, you know, not totally dry to the bitter end. I think there was plenty of interesting or not too redundant portions. And so, as always, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. Help spread the word. I think this is a legitimate gripe, a serious concern. We need to find a better way to meet. I mean, apart from job or church or, you know, school, if those aren't your options, you know, there's got to be better matchmakers or something out there that don't cost a fortune. I don't know exactly what to tell you in that regard, but I do know that websites like this are probably just the worst. I don't know. What can I say? Their employees are obviously not on the same page as you. Therefore, how can their product be on the same page as you? Period.